Hello everyone, welcome back to the another session in Principles of Programming Languages. This video will be going to explain you about language evaluation criteria. This topic you will find in Unit 1 as topic number 3. Now, so basically we will be going to evaluate the programming languages based upon some criteria. And this criteria is what? Readability, writability, reliability and cost. So I'm not saying that, even the textbook will not say that only these parameters are necessary to evaluate. No, these are the what major parameters. If a language is providing these four, then we say that it is good to use for some kind of applications. That's it. But we should not say that only these parameters are required. No. These are what necessary. I'll give an example. If you wanted to communicate anything to the other person. Now let's see that if two persons wanted to communicate each other, you need a language here. Maybe the language of numbers, maybe the language of words, maybe the language of signs or whatever. If you wanted to say hi, you can use here words, which is alphabets HI, or else you can do with the action by shaking your hand, or else you can send a numerical number to say hi. So something, right? So this is what a language, communication in between two entities is a language. Now the same way, if I wanted to do some application, now assume that I wanted to develop one application which is A. A is my application. He is a software developer who wanted to develop some application which is A. If he wanted to develop this application, whatever instructions he is writing to execute this application should be evaluated in concern to readability, writability, reliability and cost. Otherwise, the application is not getting executed or not getting implemented. So I'll give an example, the other example. If you wanted to communicate with your friend, something saying that hi. Now friend A, friend B. If friend B is looking at this message, if he understood your message, he will give reply back. Correct? So this is how the way he can give reply. He can choose other words to give a reply because he understood your language. So understandability will comes when he could able to read it. Understandability will come when he could able to write something as a reply. So every language what you are using should be readable, writable, reliable, cost. Did you understand? Now, so concerned to the applications of software development, every language should cross these phases. Each language what you are using to develop the application should be readable, should be writable, should be reliable and should also have a worthful cost, affordable cost. So cost also includes some maintenance parts of the applications that also we'll discuss in this video. Now let's move one by one. So what exactly the readability? So what do you mean by readability and how it accomplishes? One of the most important criteria for judging a programming language is the readability. So readability in the sense, as in the previous example I discussed, readability in the sense understandability. The moment when other person is reading your message, he could able to understand something, then only he can give a reply or you can expect a reply from him. Right? Now, the primary positive characteristics of programming languages was efficiency. Language constructs were designed more from the point of starting to the point of today, what we were. In this era of computers, every language is being used by the others when it is understandable. So, readability must be considered in the context of the problem domain. For example, if a program that describes a computation is written in language not designed for such use, the program may be unnatural and it is not useful for the others. Correct? So To accomplish readability in all the parameters, there are also some other parameters to understand readability. Those are overall simplicity, orthogonality, data types, and syntax design. Now we'll see this. The overall simplicity of a programming language strongly affects its readability. A language with we'll see an example. A language with a large number of basic constructs is more difficult to learn than one with a smaller number. Programmers who must use a large language often learn a subset of the language and ignore its other features. So I'll give an example. The example is what? If I wanted to increase a variable value by 1, if I wanted to increase a variable value that I am taking as count is my variable, I wanted to increase it by 1. Now, so how can I say this thing in the application? I wanted to increase variable value by 1. How can I say? Or else how can I give an instruction? I have many ways to do it, right? So one way is what? I can write count plus 1 valid. So the point is what? Readability should be given understandability to the other person, and it should be simple to understand. So simple to understand is what? Whatever you wanted to do in the application, that should be effected in the part of coding. So it should be simple. And the next is what? You may have the other drawback, which is multiplicity. Simplicity is what? Making the instruction in simple way to understand. Multiplicity is what? You can do the same thing in multiple ways. That means count plus 1 is right, and count plus plus is right, plus plus count is also right. So all these are called as what? Multiplicity. This is what complicating characteristic of a programming language, which is multiplicity. Having more than one way to accomplish a particular operation. So basically this kind of things you'll see in Java and in C also. So you can make right this way, count equal to count and count plus 1 is right. Correct? Count plus equal to 1 is also right. Shorthand assignment operator. So all the statements will give you the same understandability. So this feature we used to call with the name of multiplicity. So now what we will be going to do is, readability, understandability can be acquired by the other persons or by the by the language platforms if it is having simplicity. Whatsoever multiplicity features we were identified, that we will differentiate from language to language. And the next feature is what? Orthogonality. Orthogonality is what? In a programming language means that a relatively small set of primitive constructs can be combined in a relatively small number of ways to build the control and data structure of the language. So we'll see an example for the same. If I wanted to write some instruction, that means I'll take fresh page. Now we'll see about orthogonality. So orthogonality is what? The meaning of an orthogonal language feature is independent of the context of its appearance in a program. The word orthogonal comes from the mathematical concept of orthogonal vectors, which are independent of each other. Now, orthogonality follows from a symmetry of relationship among primitives. A lack of orthogonality leads to exceptions to the rules of the language. For example, in a programming language, the language which supports pointers, it should be possible to define a pointer to point any specific type defined in the language. However, if pointers are not allowed to point to arrays, many potentially useful user-defined data structures cannot be defined. This is what orthogonality feature. And the next is what? Data types. So data types is what? In some languages, data types may be not same as the in other language. So here understandability will goes wrong. Now we'll see in data types. The presence of adequate facilities for defining data types and data structures in a language is another significant aid to readability. For example, a numeric type is used for an indicator flag. Now let's take the flag name as some timeout. I am representing timeout is equal to 1. The meaning of this statement is clear, whereas in a language that includes non-Boolean data types, right? Timeout is equal to 1. So it will be unclear in the languages which will support Boolean data types. Why it is unclear? Because it supports Boolean. In the place of 1, we'll make it as true, correct? So this is right in the case of some languages, this is right in the case of some languages. The language where Boolean data type is fundamental data type or else supported data type, now it is clear for them to understand timeout is equal to true. The data types which are not supported, Boolean is a data type which are not supported in the languages, there will write timeout equal to 1. So the presence of this facility for defining data types and data structures will give some complexity, but that is the reason why we'll differentiate from language to language. The language where you have to use this one, we see that the language will not have any Boolean data type. So in this way also we'll improve readability and we'll take precaution not to have any conflict in between users versus the language platforms. And the next is about syntax design. So here it comes very huge role because all the programming languages will not support all kind of keywords. If you say sum is a variable in C and you can make it in C++, in Java, you can make sum as a variable which is created by user. But the same sum is a reserved word in COBOL. So readability will comes from language to language in different way, as the way you have to know the concept of that particular language, how it supports. So readability is one of the feature to judge the programming language. So and we'll see about the writability feature. So writability is what? Readability should appears or readability should lead the user to write it. If I'm sending a message which is hi to my friend, I should understand this, correct? And I should able to give a reply which he is expecting. Let's see, if I give a word which is something like what, come, slate, pot, going. Now this is my message. In this message, you didn't find any spelling mistake. It is in readable format. Because I have used all alphabeticals. I did not use any symbol something like of this and I'm saying this is my language. No, it is not readable. It is not giving any simplicity. It is not giving any simplicity. In simplicity, I wanted to share a message of greeting. So it is not showing that. So it is not a readable format. It is in a readable format because I have used all English alphabets and that also doesn't have any spelling mistake in each word. What spelling is right, come spelling is right, slate, pot, going, all the spellings are right. But still, to whom I'm sending this message, they will not have any reply back. They'll not send any reply back. The reason is what? Readability should not only gives understandability. No, should also encourage to writability. Or else readability should lead to writability. Now in the case of this, though it is in readable format, I cannot get a reply my friend other than this question mark. Correct? So I didn't understand. My friend says that I didn't understand what is your message. I'll get a question mark. But my intention is what? I wanted to ask my friend, what? Entira palaka kunda potunna. I wanted to ask this message to my friend, but he or she will not give any reply back. The reason is what? The readability is not leading them to writability. So that's what the problem. Now, to have writability, Readability should be maintained. Readability should achieve writability. Point is, readability should not only understandability but also it leads to have a writability. So writability in the sense, it's a measure of how easily a language can be used to create programs. In a chosen problem domain. Most of the language characteristics that affect readability also affect writability. Continuous way. And this follows directly from the fact that the process of writing a program requires the programmer frequently to reread the part of the program this is already written. So here also some parameters to achieve writability. The one is simplicity and orthogonality. So here the same. Simplicity is whatever I wanted to make it an instruction that should be simple to understand. If a language has a large number of different constructs, some programmers might not be familiar with all of them. This situation can lead to misuse of some features and a disuse of others that may be either more elegant or more efficient. So whatever instruction you have to say in the form of instruction, make use of simple syntactical constructions or simple constructive methods in the programming language. And the second is support for abstraction. Briefly, abstraction means the ability to define and then use complicated structures or operations in ways that allow many of the details to be ignored. So you might have studied about this abstraction in your OOPS concepts. So that is what will hide some data which is not relevant. Correct? So in the case of abstraction, I'll give an example to make you more clear about the concept. Assume that I'm installing some application. Let's see that I wanted to install C into my computer. So after I installed C into my computer, I may be not aware of the implementation part fully, the C implementation part. This is what abstraction. Abstraction is what major features will be hidden. The features through which the language will get effect, the application will get effect, that will be hidden from the user. Only the features which are to be useful to me as a user, that only given access. So simple abstraction is what? Abstraction is a key concept of contemporary programming language design. And the degree of abstraction allowed by a programming language and the naturalness of its expression are therefore important to its writability. And the next is what? Expressivity. Expressivity is what? Expressivity in a language can refer to several different characteristics. So if you see a language name which is APL, a programming language. APL stands for a programming language, introduced by Gilman and Ross in 1976. Now this language is having powerful operators that allow a great deal of computation to be accomplished with a very small program. More commonly, it means that a language has relatively convenient rather than the other ways of writing the instructions. Now I'll tell you with an example. Count is equal to count plus 1 is correct. Count plus is also correct. So we will use count plus because it is more shorter than count plus 1. Also, the and then Boolean operators in ADA is a convenient way of specifying short circuit evaluation of a Boolean expression. So instead of making use of expressivity, instead of expressing the instruction in this way, we'll make simple way of notation, we'll make simple way of giving instruction. So this is what? Writability. And reliability is what? Reliability is a program is said to be reliable if it performs to its specifications under all conditions. So those are we have some parameters here: type checking, exception handling, name aliasing, readability and writability. So readability, writability we were also we covered just the moment. Now we'll come to this type checking and exception handling and aliasing. So type checking is what? It's 2-mark question. Type checking is a 2-mark question. Type checking is simply testing for type errors in the program. We'll check for type errors in the program, either by compiler or during program execution. And type checking is an important factor in language reliability, because runtime type checking is expensive, compiler time checking is more desirable. That we know it, right? Because we were executed many programs using C and Java. So before you go to runtime type checking, compile time type checking is more desirable. We'll check all type of errors in the compile time. As you decide, or as you found that no type errors, no type checking errors in the compile time, then only we'll go for runtime errors, runtime execution. Now, the design of Java requires checks of the types of nearly all variables and expressions at compile time itself. So that is of type checking. And exception handling is what? The ability of a program to intercept runtime errors. So when some instructions, see, this language facility is called exception handling. That means we will take some corrective measures and then continue is an obvious aid to reliability. For these type of things, we'll choose this exception handling. And aliasing is what? Giving the other name for variable. So this also there in some programming language. That's what we were learned in C programming of what we were learning, user defined data type. So instead of giving this int a is equal to 1, it is what? Fundamental data type. Now using user defined data type, I can give my name, right? Type def int some abc. Now abc will be act as an integer. So you can create this type of aliasing names in the programming languages. So this is about reliability. And the last evaluation criteria is cost. The total cost of the programming language is a function of many of its characteristics. The first characteristic is what? There is a cost of training programmers to use the language, which is a function of the simplicity and orthogonality. And even writing programmers is having some cost. So we'll consider these all in cost. So there are some tools which has to be buy and to keep in the applications. There are some applications itself you have to buy, some functions you have to purchase. So all together, whichever things are needed in the platform to keep, so whichever will be having in terms of cost, that is also one of the parameter to judge the language evaluation. And this is what the language evaluation criteria and the characteristics. So here we go with the characteristics what we were discussed just the moment. The different characteristics are what? Simplicity, orthogonality, data types, syntax design, support for abstraction from reliability, expressivity, type checking, exception handling, restricted aliasing. This will ensure you reliability will be calculated, or reliability will be carried in all the languages once it is maintained all. Thank you all.